This is along the same lines as Jonte Porter in the sense of we have another lawsuit to go over, and this has some very serious implications, and it's surrounding the Los Angeles Clippers and Kawhi Leonard. And this kind of, what's the word? It kind of makes everything adds up from what we've been talking about the past few weeks, where I said I don't think Kawhi's been healthy since 2021. And I said this maybe about a week-ish before everything came out. Well, Kawhi's personal trainer, his name is Randy Shelton, is the one filing the lawsuit on behalf of himself, Kawhi, and his team, stuff like that. And he witnessed Kawhi suffer multiple injuries and was forced to play through them. Now, obviously, athletes can play through injuries, but if you're not feeling well enough to play, then don't play, right? Teams usually don't put that kind of pressure on you. However, the Clippers made Kawhi play in these games. They also did not give him the appropriate amount of time to recover from his torn ACL he suffered in the 2021 playoffs against the Jazz, if you remember that. Mm-hmm. He also suffered what looked like a concussion at the end of the 2023 regular season. They also did not let him rest and made him play.
Oh, wow.
So they're basically putting him in these unsafe, more like high-risk situations to get re-injured again, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. During the 2023 playoffs against the Phoenix Suns, a lot of flagrant shit happened, and this is really what was the driving factor in this lawsuit filing. And this is basically, I'm just giving you all the TLDR. There's a humongous, like multi-page court document that I can link in the description if I can find it for you guys to link to, or at least I can put the tweet down there. But during the 2023 playoffs against the Los Angeles Clippers, when Russ was there, if you remember that, or not Russ, against the Phoenix Suns. This was when KD first got there. Alongside those concussions-like symptoms, he was forced to play in Game 1, and he was not feeling right. Obviously, he was removed from play after Game 1, was taken back to the locker room. A bunch of scans went down. That's when we found out about the torn meniscus, right? That was when he was ruled out for the entire series. He also had damaged cartilage in his torn ACL that he suffered back in 2021. However, the Clippers did not mention any of that and just said it was a knee sprain.
They didn't mention any of that to him or
You're supposed to make all injuries public. And they
publicly.
lied.
Okay.
And they lied. They were completely dishonest. They outright refused to do so. So after that season, Kawhi's personal trainer, Shelton, filed a complaint to the team. He filed multiple complaints. And what did the Clippers do? They fired him. So I'm sure they gave him a severance package to keep quiet, which obviously he didn't listen to, which I give him credit for not doing. But after he was fired, the Clippers then forced their hand and made Kawhi play in as many games as possible throughout the 2024 season. So what we saw last year from Kawhi, he was never healthy to begin with.
Yeah.
So look, and because Kawhi is like the main player on the Clippers, making him play would essentially buff up ticket sales.
Are they even allowed to force him to play? That's my question.
I don't think you are.
So then you can't say that he was forced to play. At the end of the day, it was up to him whether he was going to play or not. You can say he was heavily, heavily encouraged to play, but you can't say he was forced to play.
Right.
Maybe the Clippers took something
They probably-
contract-wise and hold it against him.
Okay.
Contract-wise, there could be a fine system, anything like
right.
that. So Kawhi played in as many games as he could in the 2024 season, but because of this, and because of this is why it's bad, because of the constant mileage, the constant bumps and bruises and everything like that, his knee was so swollen it completely broke down by the playoffs because he wasn't given the adequate time to rest. They would not let him load manage, and he was not able to play in the first round of the playoffs, and that's in part why they lost the Dallas Mavericks. So, and because the Clippers want Kawhi on the floor, with Kawhi playing, more ticket sales, more butts and seats, more revenue, more profitability. And especially after Steve Ballmer just poured in billions of dollars for the Intuit Dome, it helps to have more revenue coming in. And really, I think that's kind of all they care about if you're really thinking about it, because they don't care about the well-being of Kawhi, of your star player. Mm-hmm. But from what we saw from Kawhi last year, though, even though he was hurt and he was aching and he was swollen beyond belief, still averaged 24 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. I mean, he was incredible last year. He shot 42% from 3.
Yeah.
So, massive kudos to Kawhi. I mean, with a 62% true shooting rate on 26% usage is very impressive.
Yeah.
But That's enough of me. I'll swing it over to you guys now that you guys kind of have the TLDR of this whole thing.
I don't know much about the story.
Yeah.
But when I was watching, because I was watching Clippers basketball because of Russ, of course, right? So when I'm watching Kawhi play, there was no, there's no noticeable like injuries that he had when he was playing. He seemed fully functional, mobility wise. Everything was moving great. He wasn't wincing when getting in like a specific stance or anything like that. There was no noticeable swelling on his knees, at least not from the angle that I had while watching the
Who's to say
TV.
that he wasn't getting injections or shots to numb him in certain spots of pain
It's very possible.
for the amount of time?
It's very possible. And that's probably what he was doing. Because I don't know, if you have those types of injuries and you're playing a regular season with those types of injuries, you would absolutely need those injections, those shots to cover up for the pain, to lower the swelling and all that stuff. But man, if that's the case, if that's what he was doing and the Clippers were pressuring him into doing that, that could be a big lawsuit right there.
Yeah, because like I understand your point, but like your point prior of they can't really force him.
Yeah.
But like once they fired Shelton, that's when it got sketch. Because the fact that he filed a complaint that his client essentially was put in dangerous scenarios and dangerous situations that could lead him to even more serious injuries, and you let him go to keep quiet, that's bad. That can't be tolerated.
Okay, let me ask you this. As the Clippers organization, okay, so you go out and you get Kawhi Leonard. You pay him all this big-time money, right?
Yeah.
And now he doesn't play any games. What do you do?
I'll let you answer that first, Antoine. I want to know your thoughts.
Well, you see, if the Clippers looked at it from both sides, I think Steve Ballmer only saw it as Kawhi coming in, but didn't take into account the injury history and what he was getting into. So you can't
He
blame.
didn't really have much of an injury history, did he? It was like one significant injury.
He was just known for load managing.
Yeah.
Was he known for that?
Yeah, the Toronto year was great, of course, and then he got his money.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, if you knew there was some type of, like, with the load managing and everything, and then once the big injury happened, it gets concerning, but you can't control what happens on the court on his injury-wise. And then if they actually properly let him recover from the first injury, he would have been playing probably pretty good basketball up until now. But he also did tear his meniscus, like Tyler said, in the playoffs. So it's just the player you're bringing in, also knowing that he's getting a lot older. He's not like a fresh rookie draft pick. He is the greatest. He's not built like LeBron, unfortunately. But, it's kind of probably just who he is. Like, it's same thing with Embiid. It just happens to them. These guys are ridiculously tall and are humans, but are kind of, their body doesn't really tend to their height and their weight as much, and they're more capable to break down, hence why Embiid is a prime example of that. And Kawhi could also be another prime example from that, and also being played while being injured is not helping him recover at all. So it's kind of they put themselves in this mess with Kawhi. You can't really blame Kawhi for doing what he was supposed to be doing in his recovery.
So you're saying
trainer.
So you're saying the Clippers already knew what they were getting into, so they should have maybe either not have signed Kawhi or just expected that this was going to happen and they're going to have to deal with the consequences. That's what you're saying.
Well, when you're signing a player for that money, you're expecting him to be healthy all the time. So look at Lonzo Ball, for example, with the Bulls. They gave him as much time as he needed to recover from his traumatic injury.
Okay.
2 years, now he's finally back. They gave him big money. Not as big as Kawhi, but $80 million over 4 years. I think 5 years, $100 million. That's pretty decent money. Kawhi's getting a little more, but they never rushed him back. That's how you do it. 2 years, 2 seasons is a long time for the Bulls. And it's a prime player as well that you want back on the court. So, now Lonzo's back at his own his own time, and was actually able to do what he needed to get done in those 2 years to come back to the court fully healthy to play, to make an impact. I don't think they let Kawhi get to that point where he could make an impact.
Right.
More than he already was doing.
Right. Okay, now
I think this is where it's different situations because there wasn't as much pressure on Lonzo because the Bulls were not good.
That
the
too.
Clippers were in contending status. Like they were a lot of people's picks to go to the finals last year, and he picked them to win it all last year. So
I'm biased though. So
well, even still, I mean, it was a viable option. I mean, the Clippers were good enough. Here's my problem. It's not necessarily signing Kawhi because, I mean, he was fresh off his second finals MVP. You signed Kawhi. You give him a blank check.
Yeah.
Who cares? The problem is what you did 5 days later when you gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and 5 first-round picks for Paul George.
Yes.
That's the issue because Paul George himself also has massive injury concerns, let alone the broken leg from 10 years ago. But, you know, he missed a lot of time. He had the wrist injury that kept him out for like 3 months. He had like a bunch of like knee hyperextensions and like shoulder injuries and whatever. That's the problem. Don't blame Kawhi because the rest of your roster is top heavy and injury prone. You need to surround Kawhi with depth. Now, I don't think SGA would be this good if he was still with the Clippers, but it would have been a much more surefire option giving him a developing guard or at least someone else, right? You don't give up your whole future like that. Where now, if you're the Clippers, you swap with OKC this year in that trade, where if the Clippers fail, like if they wind up in the lottery, they can give OKC potentially Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey or whoever. So, and we've seen in the past, ever since the Donald Sterling days, the Clippers have not been the smartest when it comes to operations. Like we saw this past offseason, they just let Paul George walk for nothing, right? They make these decisions where they're extremely questionable, and as a result, they try and overcompensate with stupid shit, just like with Kawhi, because they can't trust the rest of their roster because they made a mistake. They take all their anger out on Kawhi, like play as many games as you can, or else. That's kind of what they're telling him. So, to me, I think it's a personnel issue. I think Steve Ballmer, I think he's a phenomenal owner, but I don't think he's hired the right people. I think he's done well to grow the Clippers brand. I think the arena is beautiful, but I think the Clippers need to figure out the problem within, the problem in-house, because that seems to be the issue.